We are floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show, where we're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. My wingman, my friend, the guy who always watches my six is my main man, Dr. Paul Thompson. How you doing, Brother Paul?
Pretty good, Commander Drew. It's good to see you today. You look kind of colorful with those airplanes flying low to the water there.
Well, thank you very much. It took me a lot of work to get that background. Let's start this puppy off with the quote of the day, and I like this one, and we like the guy who said it. And it states, courage is an inner resolution to go forward in spite of obstacles and frightening situations. Once again, courage is an inner resolution to go forward in spite of obstacles and frightening situations. And that is by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What a great man and what a great quote, Dr. Paul.
Yeah, I'd never heard that quote before, but that's basically true. Courage is basically doing something, you're scared, but you do it anyway because it's something that needs to be done.
That's right. And if you have the power with you, you don't have to be scared. I got the guy upstairs and he takes me through all the things that I need to do that I'm scared of. All right, today's show, the name of it is Welcome to the Dark Side of the Moon. And the reason is, NASA just launched Artemis II, and these astronauts actually went on a mission around the moon. They went on a 10-day mission that actually had them travel further from Earth than any humans have done before. So, welcome to the Wingman Show. And today we're talking about something big, bold, and way out there, the dark side of the moon. What really happened with the Artemis II mission and that trip around the moon. That was powerful, wasn't it, Paul?
It sure was, Commander Drew. You're quite correct. People keep hearing Artemis 2 on the news, but a lot of people really don't know what that means. What you need to do is think of Artemis 2 as the first crewed, that's with a crew, test flight back to the moon in over 50 years. I remember the original moon landings when I was a teenager. There was no landing this time. This was just a dress rehearsal for landing later on. They just had some people on board, Commander Drew.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Dr. Paul and Commander Drew love this because we love speed and power. And this rocket had speed and power. So, step one, launch. 4 astronauts strapped into a big rocket called the Space Launch System. And that's sitting on a pad in Florida. And underneath them is a stack of fuel that makes anything we ever flew look like a moped. That rocket lights. And listen to this, Paul, 8.8 million pounds of thrust actually shoots them out into space. And in less time than it takes to watch a sitcom, they're in Earth's orbit, circling the planet. Now that's fast and powerful, isn't it, Paul?
It is fast and powerful. Step two is the push to the moon itself. Once they're checked out of Earth's orbit, a second engine fires and gives them a giant kick, sending their spaceship called Orion on a curved highway from Earth towards the moon. They're not going to land again. They just fly around the far side, the part we never see from the Earth, to test how the ship and systems behave during deep space flight with real people.
Wow. And you do know that while they're out there, they're checking out everything. They're checking how the computers behave, how the life support works, how the crew handles days in deep space, and how the communication works when the moon blocks the signal and Houston can't see them for over 40 minutes. And for a pilot, that's like taking a brand new jet on a long cross country to see what shakes, rattles, and rolls or fails before you send it into combat, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, then there's step 3, and that's the ride back home. Orion swings past the moon. It's going to use its gravity to bend the flight path and sling it back towards Earth. As they approach home, the crew's going to strap in tight because that capsule is about to hit the top of our atmosphere. faster than any commercial jet has ever dreamed of going. We're talking nearly 25,000 miles an hour, Commander Drew.
Wow, you and I used to fly 400 and 500 miles an hour. That's a big difference. But to survive that, they use a special skip reentry I didn't know about. All right, so picture a stone skipping on the water. The capsule dips into the atmosphere, pops back out a bit, and then dips in again. And see, that spreads out the heat and the G forces so the crew doesn't get cooked or crushed on the way down. Did you know that, Paul?
Uh, no, I didn't know that. Never heard about that skip entry, but it sort of makes sense. Not all at once, it does it in pieces. Yes, Commander Drew. And once they slowed down enough, the parachutes came out. You saw those big, bright canopies that turned that fiery bullet into a gentle, bobbing capsule. They splashed down in the ocean where the recovery ships and helicopters were waiting. The divers secured the capsule, they helped the crew out, and they hoisted the spacecraft onto the ship, just like recovering the jet and the crew after a mission at sea, Commander.
Wow. So I guess in plain English, Artemis II is blast off, loop around the moon, come screaming home, and splash down safe. A full test of highway back to the moon. They did it, Paul. And since that works, the next mission can start landing people actually on the surface again, Paul. That's
Yeah.
what we were talking about.
Yeah, and what really matters is the fact that, they're not just planting a flag. That's been done. That was done when we were teenagers. Now it's about proving that we can travel, live, and work deeper in space than any of us have ever done before, step by step, just like earning your wings, like you did, Commander. Do you remember?
Yes, I sure do. Didn't you meet somebody, Dr. Paul, who actually went to space?
Yes, I did. The last one, this was the last man on the moon. His name was Eugene Cernan. Eugene Cernan was a former Navy pilot, Navy attack pilot, actually. And he was a friend of a friend of a friend of the last CO I was with. And he came and gave us a talk one day. Was, nice guy, latter part of his life. Uh, but, he was the last man to walk on the moon, I think 1975.
Wow, a famous person meeting a more famous person. Who's you, Dr. Paul Thompson?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you hear Artemis II, now let's think of four brave astronauts who took the ultimate check ride around the dark side of the moon so the rest of us can go further in the years to come. Keep your questions sharp and your wings level. This is the Wingman Show. I have to give a PS on this story. Mission specialist Jeremy Hansen on the line with Mission Control suggested that the first crater be named after their spaceship, Integrity. And for the second, they suggested Carol in honor of Wiseman's wife, who died of cancer at the age of 46 years old. All right, everybody, you know this is the good news segment, and this is where we love to bring good news because there's so much bad news out there. Nobody reports the good. Well, the Wingman Show, we do. We want you to feel better when you finish watching our show or listening to our show than when you started. So, Doc, I just found out Sweden is going old school again in the classroom. They're going to use real textbooks now, handwriting, and they're even moving towards cell phone free schools. I thought I woken up back in 1975, Paul.
Oh, Sweden, you say? Aren't those the same folks that tried to put an iPad in every crib? I think so. But now they're taking screens away from kids, like we used to take keys away from people who were too old to drive.
Yeah, that's a trip when you have to do that. And they spend tens of millions of dollars so every kid could have a physical textbook for each and every subject, not a login, an actual book. And meanwhile, in the US, we dropped around $30 billion on laptops and tablets in 1 year, 10 times what we spent on textbooks. And I don't know if it was worth it, Paul.
Wow, 10 times more on screens than books. That's a lot. Well, that's like putting gold plated cup holders in the cockpit, but never buying any fuel for the airplane. It looks cool on the ramp, but it won't get you off the ground, Commander Drew.
That's right. And here's the kicker, the research keeps saying kids usually understand and remember more when they read on paper than on screens, especially when describing stuff. Yet, a big chunk of U.S. classroom reading is still happening on devices, Dr. Paul. They're using tech.
Yeah, of course it is. Tech companies told everybody, we're transforming education. Yeah, they transformed it into a never ending pop up ad. You try teaching fractions to a young student while a tablet is whispering, hey, kid, do you want to watch a movie instead?
That's amazing. So Sweden finally said, hold up, are we sure this was evidence based? Their scores have been sliding for years. We spent more money, then came the screens, and now they're worried about attention spans, deep reading, handwriting, all the stuff that actually builds a brain, Paul.
Yeah, that's the best part, Commander Drew. They didn't say tech is evil. They just said tech is like an afterburner. You don't light it up from idle. You don't just give it to a 3-year-old. You teach them to taxi the plane straight and do the simple things first, don't you?
Yes, that's a great analogy, Dr. Paul. So, amen on that. In Sweden, the idea is nail the basics reading, writing, and arithmetic with books, pencils, and real teachers. Then bring in the digital tools later when they help instead of hurt. That's not anti tech, Dr. Paul. That's good airmanship, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. And you're also starting to see some American parents pull the ejection handle on school laptops too, asking for a pen and paper, opting out of the constant screen time. They're basically saying, my kid doesn't need another tablet. He needs a notebook and maybe a nap, Commander Drew.
Well, look, two jet pilots here. We love advanced tech, but nobody let us touch a high performance jet until we could fly the basics in a trainer radios, hand flying, checklists, procedures. Remember learning all that, Paul?
I sure do. And basically, you got to do the basics. If you can't fly a basic traffic pattern, you don't need to put on night vision goggles and a lot of fancy stuff. If you can't read a physical book with focus, you don't need school issued laptops with 5 AI chatbots, Commander Drew.
You're so right, Dr. Paul. So, our wingman wisdom for today is for kids, books first, buttons later. Build the brain with paper, pencils, and a good teacher before you throw in screens and artificial intelligence. I really like that, Dr. P.
Yeah, and that's because technology is a tool. It's not the teacher, totally. And if you skip the basics, all that shiny gear just helps you crash faster. Going back to the basics isn't going backwards. It's how you earn the right to go supersonic. Commander Drew, do you have any more good news for us today?
I sure do. And this is a great topic right here, and it's called forgiveness. And in the 11 Facts in Life, we say forgiveness is a virtue that sets you free. Doc, we talk a lot on this show about grit, toughness, and staying in the fight. But there's a different kind of courage people don't like to talk about much, and that's forgiveness. Not the greeting card kind, the this person really hurt me, and I'd rather stay mad kind. I've been like that, haven't you, Paul?
Sometimes I tended to get over it, but sometimes certain things would push you a little harder. But that's exactly right, Commander Drew. It turns out that forgiveness isn't just something nice you do for the other person. New research looked at over 200,000 people in 23 different countries, followed them for about a year, and found that people who forgave more often actually did better in life themselves, both mentally and socially. Did you know that?
No, I did know that they actually did research, but now we're talking about real outcomes higher optimism, stronger sense of purpose, actually better relationships and more gratitude. Not perfect lives, but lighter ones. The folks who forgave more weren't weak. They were more motivated to do good in the world, not just sit in pain, Paul.
No, it's true. And the key is forgiveness is not it's not pretending it didn't happen or it didn't hurt. It's not saying what you did was okay. Forgiveness is saying what you did was not okay, but I'm not going to let it own my mind, my body, and my future. It's releasing the chokehold that resentment has on your life, Commander Drew.
You know this from aviation, Dr. P. You can't fly safely with a bunch of hidden damage in the airframe. You've got to find it, acknowledge it, and then you need to repair it. Forgiveness is an internal maintenance, patching the cracks so your soul doesn't come apart under stress. I really like that, Dr. P. What's the
Yeah.
beautiful part of this?
Well, the beautiful part is that the forgiveness can be practiced. You can work on it. It's not just a personality trait you're born with. You can train it like a muscle, especially when it's safe and appropriate to do so.
Well, I guess here's your wingman wisdom today. Let's first ask yourself, who am I still carrying in my head and my heart? That person may have moved on, but you're still flying with their weight strapped to your wings. Second, you don't have to forgive in one big dramatic moment. Start off small. Say out loud, what they did was wrong, but I'm choosing not to let it define me. Pray about it. Write it down or talk it out with a trusted wingman. Repeat that choice when the anger comes back because it will, Paul. It'll come back, don't you think?
Yes. And, forgiveness doesn't always fix everything, doesn't fix a relationship necessarily, but sometimes it just fixes you. It gives you back your energy, your focus, your capacity to love the people who are actually in your life right now, Commander.
Okay, so Wingman, let's listen. Holding on to bitterness doesn't punish them, it actually punishes you. Let today be the day you start loosening that grip. You deserve the freedom that comes with a lighter heart and a clearer sky ahead. I have a story, Dr. Paul, I want to tell you that relates to this. There were two monks walking on the side of a river, and all of a sudden, a prostitute comes out of the bushes and asks one of the monks, "Can you carry me across the river?" Well, the monk said yes. So the monk picked up the prostitute and carried her across the river, and the other monk followed. And then all of a sudden, about 2 hours later, that other monk said to the monk that carried the woman, "Hey, how could you carry somebody like that? I can't believe you did something like that. Why would you carry somebody like that?" And the monk said very clearly, "I carried her across the river. You've been carrying her for 2 hours." All right, everybody, that's right. It's time for that jet jolt, the jet that lands sideways on purpose. All right, today's jet jolt, modern airline magic. Hey, Doc, have you ever flown a jet that actually had to land sideways and you know that it's coming in sideways, but you know it's a safe landing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It looks like the pilot's drunk, but the wheels somehow kiss the runway, just like jazz hands. What's going on there, Commander Drew? Can you explain it to us?
Yes, that's what they taught us. It's called a crab landing. See, in big crosswinds, the jet actually points its nose into the wind, flying kind of crooked, so a track stays lined up with the runway. We've done that many times, Paul.
Exactly. So from the ground, it looks all jacked up, but the computers know what the airplane is doing and where it should be, Commander Drew.
Exactly. On these new Airbuses, the flight control system is doing crazy math in the background. It knows the wind, it knows the drift angle, the weight, and it's quietly commanding control surfaces so the jet can touch down almost like it's on the rails, Paul.
Yeah, so the pilot's not fighting the airplane. He's actually dancing with the partner that's doing calculus at 140 miles an hour.
You got it, Paul. The pilot still makes the call, but the jet's helping keep it smooth so the folks in back don't spill their ginger ale. And Dr. Paul, we were lucky because we didn't have people in the back to spill their ginger ale. We only had boxes. God bless FedEx. And from the cabin, you feel a little wiggle and think, nice landing. So, what's the lesson, Dr. P?
Well, Commander Drew, the jet jolt lesson today is in modern aviation. The best technology is the stuff you never notice. When life feels sideways, you might still be perfectly on track. You just need a good flight control system between your ears.
All right, everybody, check out those badass jets we got behind us. Behind Dr. Paul is a Navy F-8. It's a beautiful airplane. Actually, it looks like an A-7, the one that Dr. Paul flew. It's a little older than the A-7. Tell us a little bit about the F-8, Dr. P.
Yeah, F8 came out in the 50s. Old, long time. It's been gone a long time. I know two people that flew it. One of them ended up being the Blue Angel, but it was quite an airplane, very difficult to land on the ship, apparently, particularly at night. I think when they finished flying them, they didn't even fly at night.
Well, Dr. Paul, everything was hard to fly at night on an aircraft carrier. And behind me, look at them 3 bad A6s. I put that in AI. I said, "I want them to have some afterburners, and I want them to look funky," and that's what it did. AI is a trip. I can't believe it can use pictures like that and manipulate them. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for listening to us on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for watching us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. We really appreciate all your support and all your letters. We have a website, and that website is wingmanshow.com. That's actually WINGMENSHOW.com. That's our website. And on that website, we have a newsletter. Great newsletter this week: Space Travel for Dummies. No PhD required. We actually explain space travel in kind of terms that we could all understand. And then also on that website, we have something called the frequent flow line, where you guys get to write Dr. Paul, myself, and Ace a question, and we will answer it the best we can. All right, everybody out there, frequent flow line time. And I want everybody to remember our wingman Ace, he's just an AI chat box. Don't forget, it is not a human. He is not human, and he's not always 100% correct, but he is a tool that we can use and to better our lives. Dr. Paul, why don't you read our frequent flow line letter today?
Good morning, Ace. I'm here with Commander Drew, and we want to read a frequent flow line question from one of our listeners and get your opinion. Are you ready?
I'm ready and focused. Go ahead and hit me with the listener's question whenever you're set.
Okay, here it is. Commander Drew, Dr. Paul, and Ace. My name is Rosalita. I'm 20, and I'm writing from a freezing bus stop in Minneapolis before my shift at the retail store. I'm a political science major, which means I'm supposed to understand politics. But lately, the news feels like two different worlds, arguing about two different realities. One outlet says one side is saving the country, another says it's ruining it. And I don't have hours every day to fact check everything while juggling work, classes, and rent. I want to be informed, but I'm tired of feeling like every headline is trying to make me mad instead of smarter. So here's my question. If you were a college student today, what pre flight checklist would you use for news? How do I pick sources and habits that help me think for myself instead of getting pulled onto one team or another? Signed, Rosalita in Memphis, future political scientist, and current confused voter. And Ace, what do you think?
Rosalita's frustration is completely valid. If I were her, I'd build a habit of starting with a few sources known for thorough fact based reporting rather than opinion heavy analysis. Then I'd cross check major claims across at least two sources that lean in different directions just to see where facts overlap. Also, I'd set a daily time limit, maybe 30 minutes, and focus on understanding, not reacting. This way, she'll build a muscle for critical thinking instead of emotional tug of war.
Commander Drew, what do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you, I actually watched both news channels this morning, and it was very disturbing. It's like they're talking about two different stories totally. Well, Rosalita, I'll tell you what I do. I believe in love, peace, and happiness. I believe in goodness. And I think that there's one station that gives you people who want to help others, like the Wingman Show does. And there's another station that just talks bad about people and trying to separate this country. I say go with your heart. You know what's right. You know what's wrong. Go with love, peace, and happiness and make mankind better. You know what news to listen to.
Yeah, I agree, Commander Drew. I think for Rosalita, I'd say, watch the news, don't watch it too much, and don't stress internally about this stuff. A lot of things are done to get clicks and likes and to get you into a rage, and hopefully eventually to get you to buy something because you're usually selling some stuff. So I think a lot of things are driven by the advertisers, but don't get too wrapped up in just the negativity of everything. That'll bring you down. And sometimes maybe you just need to step away from the news because you may know too much. There's news all the time. Everybody covers the same story. Give yourself a break and take a news fast every once in a while.
And let me just end it with this. Most of the stuff that you're listening to is not true anyway. It's very hard to get the real facts, so don't let it mess up your day. Actually, if you want, take a little news break.
This is a Wingman PSA. In the sky, your partner has your back. Now, let's get to it.
Climbing in now, systems green.
And now it's time for our favorite part of the show. It's the Wingman PSA. And from the 11 facts in life, on the fact number 5, learn to listen and discern. On the fact number 5, learn to listen and discern. And that's real important to me there, Dr. Paul, because if somebody gives you 10 good facts and one of them turns out not to be good, don't dismiss the other 9. That's what discernment means. It means you can take the wheat from the chaff, you can take the good from the bad. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're always making those choices, what you said. And sometimes people make mistakes too. So don't just dog them out if they give you some bad information. Look for the good stuff and discern, think for yourself.
All right, everybody, this is the part of the show called the Gouge. And you know what the Gouge is. Gouge is shit you need to know, but sometimes nobody tells you. And we learned that in the Navy. So, Ace, I'm going to give you a Gouge question. What are the 3 money moves that every working adult should make in their 20s, 30s, and 40s that nobody really teaches us? The kind of boring sounding basics that actually prevent disasters later, like medical bankruptcy, ruined credit, or having nothing for retirement. Break it down, Ace, in plain English, so a tired, overworked listener can take action this week, not just someday.
The Gouge broken down like we're briefing for a flight. First, in your 20s, build an emergency fund, like 3 to 6 months of living expenses so you don't get knocked out by surprise. In your 30s, attack debt, especially high interest stuff. Get it off your back so it doesn't weigh you down. In your 40s, ramp up retirement investing. Like seriously, max out those 401ks, IRAs, whatever. Future you will thank you when you're not scrambling to keep the lights on at 70.
Thank you so much, Ace. Great, great, great advice. And I will tell you what I learned in the Navy. Take 10% of whatever you make, even when you get raises, and put it away like a tax. Pay yourself first. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back to our Wingman story. And we do a Wingman story every week because there are people who help others, and we want to promote that. Be a wingman of somebody or say thank you to your wingman. So the name of this Wingman story is called The Extra Chair. There was a young night shift nurse named Elena and an older housekeeper, Mrs. Green, who worked the cardiac floor longer than most of the staff had even been alive. Mrs. Green, she moved slowly, but she knew every patient's name and always had a kind word. On one cold night at 3 a.m., Elena walked past the break room and saw Mrs. Green alone at the table, staring at a stack of rent and utility bills. For a second, Elena thought about her own debt and the work she still had to finish. But instead of walking by, she sat down and simply asked, "You okay, Mrs. G?" Mrs. Green sighed and admitted that with rising costs and aching knees, she was thinking of quitting, so she wouldn't slow everybody else down. That hit Elena hard. The woman who held the floor together was ready to disappear because of money and pride. So over the next few days, Elena became her wingman. She gave up an overtime shift to go with Mrs. Green to HR, Human Resources, and help ask her for reduced hours instead of quitting, and started a quiet for all wingman jar in the break room. Nurses adjusted assignments, and the charge nurse put an extra chair at the end of the hall with a handwritten sign, "Reserved Mrs. Green's flight deck." One evening, Elena found Mrs. Green sitting in that chair, watching the unit with a soft smile. "You kids didn't let me fall out of formation," she said. "You made room for me." That's what a real wingman does. Chooses people over paychecks and makes sure nobody who's carried everyone else for years ever has to fly alone. Thank you once again for listening to The Wingman Show. And anything out there that you think is important, and anything that you think is beautiful, and most importantly, whatever makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace.
I pray for peace too, Commander Drew. Again, it was good seeing you, and we appreciate all those who listen, like, and share our message. Send this to somebody you know or somebody you don't know. Share it with one person. We appreciate all those who give us a like. That's nice, but it'd be better if you become a subscriber. That way you'll get a notification when we drop a new episode. In any case, take care of yourselves, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth, and goodwill towards all men and women.